Today on Locked On Red Wings, our final season predictions.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty is the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, while I am a color commentator for Oakland University Hockey. Scotty, pretty fun episode, pretty lighthearted episode. Nice to get away from the drama that was arguing about depth players yesterday. We're just going to give you our final season predictions going into the 24-25 season, and it's just going to get fun. But before we get to that, I got to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Also want to thank you guys for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Scotty, before we get into the final season predictions, the final preseason predictions, I guess is the better way of saying it, just the news and notes. Austin Watson cleared waivers as expected and was assigned to the Grand Rapids Griffins. So at least on paper, as it stands, 12 forwards, 7D, 3 goaltenders heading into the season. Obviously, that could change. They have a roster spot. They could call somebody up. It might be Justin Holl again. We don't know. But news and notes, we don't have to have a full conversation about it. That's just what has happened.
Yeah, no, I think we're all kind of assuming it's going to be Hall, and if it's not, then that'll be a fun little surprise for everybody. But I think that's kind of the expectations.
I mean, we were told straight up on Monday that they were going to run 12 forwards going into the opening night. So whether or not Hall comes, whether or not Hall gets called up is whatever. Who cares? So Scotty, into today's topic, I'm just going to dive right into it, right? Like, it's just a lighthearted conversation. I want to know, first and foremost, I think it's at the top of everyone's head when you start talking about season predictions, is who do you feel will be the leader in points for the Detroit Red Wings this season coming up?
You know, I'm pumped, man. We're doing a season preview. Like, we're back. Like, we made it. A long summer has ended. We are, it's getting a little brisk outside. I'm, wearing sweatshirts. It's 60 and sunny during the day. It's beautiful Midwest Michigan falls. We're so back, and I'm just so pumped that we're doing season preview. Let's get the final everything ready for the season preview. Buckle down here and talk about what we expect this season to be. I think with points, I don't think it's a very long conversation. I think it's assuming health for everybody. It's Dylan Larkin. And if it's not Dylan Larkin, then I think you have conversations about, Razor, because of the, how good he looked down the stretch last season when Larkin was out. I think if you're assuming health for everybody, which we obviously do, then it's probably just going to be the captain, and there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Right. I mean, that's just pretty much how it goes. Obviously, Raymond led the team in points last year at 72, but he played a full 82 games. Dylan Larkin was second on the team in points with 69 points in 68 games. So he was over a point per game for the first time in his career. Again, like you said, assuming health for everybody, I don't see any reason why Dylan Larkin is not, again, the points leader for the Detroit Red Wings going into next year. But that doesn't necessarily mean he is going to be the goal leader or the assist leader going into next season. So does that answer change at all if we break it down between goals and assists?
I think there's an argument for goal leader not being Larkin. I think there's an argument for the goal leader being Larkin too. I think I would probably default to him leading the team in apples there, but Razor obviously is good with getting assists as well. This all boils down to which cat are we going to get this year, man? And that's something that I don't think we've discussed it here and there throughout the offseason, but I feel like the general media is not talking about that angle of this team nearly enough. This is a guy who the Wings brought in to be like a 35 to 40 goal scorer, right? It's certainly a 30 plus goal scorer at a minimum. And he was not that at all last year, right? Got off to the hot start for the first, whatever it was, month and a half of the season. And then after that, just really was not a goal scorer. And we've talked so much. Like he did great in other areas, right? He had a career high in assists, was better defensively, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but like, can you imagine what kind of player he would be if we get the passing and defense from him that we got last year, but he also scores 35 plus? Like that would be a heck of a hockey player, man. You're talking about a perennial forward in the Eastern Conference. So I think I'm still going to default to probably Larkin, but I think Katz is just a total wild card. And then similar to the points conversation, I think there's always an argument that Raymond could just go out there and put up, 33, and that could lead the team.
Do you have a number that you're willing to, or a number range you're willing to assign your life to going into the next season?
Like how many goals is the leading goal scorer on the Red Wings going to have?
Yeah, like you said, Dylan Larkin is going to probably lead in goals. What number do you think that's going to come in at?
I would say the leader in goals for the Detroit Red Wings is going to have 37 goals.
Okay. All right. See, I'm with you. I think Dylan Larkin's going to lead the team in goals again, just one being center, two getting power play 1 minutes, and being an all-around great hockey player. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Larkin scores 40 goals this season.
Nice.
Now, when it comes to points, I think it's going to be Larkin again with points. I think he cracks 80 for the first time in his career.
I'll tell you what, man, if he puts up a 40 goal season, you're flirting with 90 there.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's very possible he comes in with a solid, considering who were his line mates and the seasons that they had last year, that they get a bump as well, playing with Dylan Larkin and just overall being better hockey players, Lucas Raymond specifically. Larkin could come in at 40 to 45 assists, and you're looking at 80 to 85 points. So that's my prediction for goals and points. Now, when it comes to assists, this is a really tough one because last year with Shane Gostisbehere getting extremely sheltered minutes, offensive zone deployments, getting a ton of power play 1 minutes as well. He led the team in assists at 46. Are you going to go trifecta? You think Larkin's going to lead in points, goals, assists? Because I think at a certain point it becomes like, okay, maybe just for roofer radio purposes, we shake this up a little bit. Like, it's very possible, but
right. Well, that's the thing, man. If he plays 80 plus games, like I feel like it's very reasonable to, you know what I mean? I don't think that's just lazy or like a cop out. The dude plays over 80 games. That's pretty, dare I say, likely for him to lead in pretty much every category if that ends up being the case. I do think Raymond will make a push there. Honestly, I think the player that kind of intrigues me the most with assists, and I'm not saying he's going to lead the team, but I think Seider, man, like this is again, like we've talked a lot about him going from or getting kind of thrown into, presumably at least, we'll see how the regular season shakes out, but there's a chance that he's thrown into power play 1. And you mentioned all of the opportunities that gave, especially like the hockey assists, right? The secondary assists that Ghost had. If those start going Seider's way, he's already on the blue line for the most prolific offensive lines. Now, again, you mentioned the defensive deployment all the time, but he's going to be on the ice, presumably, with the best offensive weapons that this team has at the beginning and ends of games at a minimum. So I think that he's a guy that I think could go under the radar and could easily kind of have a 30 to even 40 assist season.
See, I think you're forgetting somebody huge here, and I think that's Patrick Kane. I think Patrick Kane, remember throughout his entire career. Yeah, he scored 20 goals last year, and he's a 100-point guy. But throughout his career, he's been even more known for his playmaking ability. And I think Patrick Kane is going to roar back with the playmaking next season. He's going to be playing with a shooter in Tarasenko at 5-on-5. He'll be getting tons of power play, probably 1 and 2, mixing it up throughout the season. And that's when he's going to shine, is feeding those seam passes on the power play to his teammates. And he's going to help the Red Wings power play stay in the top 10 And I think he's going to probably finish. If I said Larkin's going to finish between 40 and 45, I don't see any reason why Patrick Kane can't finish in that range either. So
yeah, no, that's a great call. That's definitely somebody that wasn't
again,
on the
assuming
front
health.
line. Yeah, but you could say that with everybody. So
Correct.
Yeah, no, I think that's super fair.
I mean, the final season. So right, we all know about the injured season the year before, where he only played 73 games. He played 73 games. He still had 36 assists, playing on one leg.
Right. Yeah.
The year before that, he had 66 assists at age 33. Like, this is a guy who proved last year, like, he's kind of ageless. Like, the only thing that's going to hold him back is if that hip goes wrong. And that's still a distinct possibility. He played half a season on it, and it looked fine. Doesn't mean it can't go wrong. Again, we're not praying for that by any stretch. We pray the opposite, honestly, that hip stays strong. But I think Patrick Kane is going to absolutely just dominate with the playmaking ability.
Yeah. No, that's a super fair take. I'd say that there's very much a world in which he leads the team in assists.
Mm-hmm. We're going to head to a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue our final preseason predictions, prior to the season predictions, in segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Got to talk to you guys today about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks allows you to use curation and making it easier to save more on concerts, comedy, sports, theater, and so much more. And if you toggle on all-in pricing, the feature will show the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. You just got to toggle on that all-in pricing feature. Just get a panoramic view from your seats before you buy. Using those seat views and that lowest price guarantee means that Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are doing our season predictions episode, and we both predicted that Larkin will lead the team in goals and points. I predicted Patrick Kane will lead the team in assists, and you said Moritz Seider. Although you weren't thinking about Patrick Kane at the time, so I'm going to give you an opportunity. Do you want to change that, or are you going to stick with Moritz Seider?
No, I think I'm sticking with Larkin. I think I actually said I don't think Seider is going to lead the team, but I think he's just like an under the radar kind of candidate there. I think
so
I would
Larkin.
probably still. Man, is Larkin just going to lead in everything though?
Well, if he leads in points, there's a good chance he's going to be close to leading in both those other categories, right? Like those two combined have to be a good number.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just go with Larkin with everything.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's going to be basic, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. All right, Scotty, another fun one for you. Who on the Detroit Red Wings in the crease is going to have the most starts?
The most starts in
And
net.
give me a number.
You give me a number. How about that?
Okay, you want me to go first? I will go first.
I was just throwing it back at you for no reason. Man, that's really tough. So I'm gonna go with Ville Husso, man.
I like it.
I think I really think, for better or for worse, this organization really believes in him. And again, this is obviously with everybody assuming health. But I think there's a real, like, I don't think they brought in Talbot to start like 50 games. I think Lyon is probably down on the depth chart again. It's so hard to predict. Like, Lyon could go out there opening night and I'd be like, all right, well, I don't blame him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they could throw any of the three of them out there on opening night and I'd be like, all right, like, kind of fair. So I'm going to go with Husso, but I'm going to go with I'm going to go with under half the season. So I don't think that any of them are going to start over half the year because, we have three goalies for some reason. So I'm going to go with Husso, but I'm going to go with like 37 games.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Cam Talbot. I think that they signed him to a contract for a reason. Ville Husso looked really, really good in preseason. I won't deny that. I think he is definitely second on the depth chart. I think he has overtaken Alex Lyon based solely on what we saw in the preseason. Now, that being said, I think they signed Cam Talbot, one, because they recognize that goaltending tandem as it stands is not strong enough, so they needed to upgrade that tandem. And that, two, they didn't necessarily trust, and this is my speculation, but they didn't necessarily trust Ville Husso's health either, so they wanted a little bit of insurance. Cam Talbot came off of a great year, despite his age. He's like, 36 now? 37? Despite his age, came off a great year with the LA Kings. That was, albeit, a very good defensive LA Kings team. I do think that Cam Talbot's going to be the guy that they're going to look to and get the most starts on this season. I think they probably give him 42 starts this year. Alex Lyon last year started 43 games he started. I think that is going to be Cam Talbot this year with Ville Husso behind, getting the second most starts at probably, I would argue, I'd say like 20 to 25 starts behind that. And then Alex Lyon is going to be your third goalie, getting whatever is left. I think that it's going to be, and we saw this before Ville Husso went down last year, right? Like, it took a lot when you're actually juggling three goalies, you're not going to get that third goalie a lot of ice time. And again, assuming health, I think you're going to get your one and your two a lot with the very, very rare third string start in there. And unfortunately, I think that's Alex Lyon right now. I'm not discounting anything that Alex Lyon did last year in January. He went on a magical run, and he did it the year before that with the Florida Panthers. But eventually water found its level, and I think at the end of the day, he is still what he is. And I think that Ville Husso has at least proven at the start of the season he is at least the number 2 goaltender, if not the number 1. Because again, like you said, Scotty, they seem to have a lot of faith in him. At least verbally, they say that.
Yeah, I don't disagree that they signed Talbot for a reason, but like I think that logic is somewhat shaky. Just like Husso makes double what Talbot makes. Like, if you know what I mean,
You got to play the best goalie,
right? So like but my point is, you let off with they signed him for a reason. Like, yeah, but like they're gonna play the best goalie, and so that might end up being Talbot. Who knows? But that's my point. It's like I don't think they signed him for a reason. I mean, he's getting paid like $2 million. Like, it's not like they forked over a ton of money for him to be like the bona fide starter. Like, he's getting paid backup money. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, they could throw Lyon out there for 40 games, and I wouldn't be shocked at this point.
They did last year.
Right. I have zero clue. Husso has yet to prove he can hold up over a full season health wise. Talbot's pushing 40. And Alex Lyon was in the AHL at 28. Like, I have no clue, man. Like, I have absolutely no idea what the goalie situation is going to look like this year. If you think my guess is ridiculous and awful, it probably is. Like, I don't know. I have zero clue.
No, I mean, I think this is the most, as Derek Lalonde would put it, fluid situation of them all, where you have two goalies who have yet to really prove across an entire season that they can be the guy. You have Cam Talbot, who has proven he can be the guy, but he's like James Reimer last year, older. And so you wonder for how much longer can that sustain itself. It's the same kind of question you had going into last year, except Cam Talbot's coming off a good year where James Reimer came off a bad year. So like that's really the key difference, it feels like right now. Cam Talbot came from a good hockey team, while James Reimer came from a bad hockey team. That's really the key difference right here. So we could be completely wrong in that. I want to real quick, before we go to our segment 3, our next break, who do you think is going to lead the Red Wings in penalty minutes in the new season? And just as reference, last season, the player who led the Red Wings in penalty minutes was Ben Sherratt with 56.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a repeat title, to be completely honest with you on that one. I don't know. I think that one's kind of a slam dunk. I don't think that any of the like gritty kind of enforcer type of players are going to be on the roster enough or get enough minutes to kind of overtake that. And I think we say all the time, Ben Sherratt giveth and Ben Sherratt taketh away. The taketh away is a lot of really untimely penalties. I kind of fully expect him to repeat there.
Yeah, and I mean, the only person I feel that was really going to push for that title was David Perron, who was second on the team with 55.
Right.
And he is now he's playing with the Ottawa Senators this year. He's gone. So, I mean, if Austin Watson was on this team, like as an everydayer, I'd say Austin Watson, but that's not the situation.
Got, 5 or 10 with that one hit he got suspended for. So
it was crazy.
even that was like,
he took a lot of bad penalties.
Came in one penalty.
Well, and mind you too, Ben Sherratt led the team in penalty minutes despite playing second pair for 75% of the season. He's going to be playing top pair this year.
Yeah.
So you might see that number even inflate a little bit. So yeah, I expect a repeat title too.
That'd be awesome, actually.
Someone's gonna have to lead the team.
I prefer no. How about that?
All right, we're gonna head to segment 3, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about the breakout candidate and whether or not the Red Wings are a playoff team. Got to talk to you guys today about FanDuel first, though. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stat lines, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, breakout candidate. Who do you got?
You know, this is a really fun one for this team because I think that there are a lot of young players who are probably going to get an opportunity for the Wings this season. I think there's a really easy kind of throw out there of Simon Edvinsson. I think that he's a pretty easy guy to point to and say that he could really break out. I honestly, as I started the show with, weirdly, I think Cat is like a breakout candidate. Like I think the fan base's expectations of him are now so low that it's like, okay, if he even has like a 30, I say even, like that's an easy feat, but like a 33 to 34 goal season, the pendulum kind of swing the other way and people would kind of get back on the DeBrincat hype train there. I also think that, I don't know if he classifies as breakout, but like a new addition, I think there's a chance that Tarasenko playing with Patrick Kane could be pushing 30 goals if everything goes right for him. And that's a guy that I think we're kind of penciling in for 25-ish, and again playing with Comfer and Kane could have the ability to kind of exceed our expectations there as well. But I honestly, like I go through the roster, I just continue going back to Edvinsson over and over and over again. I'd like to see Joe Veleno take another step, but I think he kind of is what he is. The shutdown line is the shutdown line. Like I think we kind of know what to expect from them. The goalie situation we just talked about, I don't think there's really a breakout unless Husso is like incredible and stays healthy. I guess that's maybe an option. But I really do think it's hard to go away from Edvinsson for people that are on the roster. I think if you look down the road a little bit, you have the conversation we had yesterday, and you start talking about, okay, well, if Marco Kasper plays 40 games for this team, that could be pretty exciting down the road too. But I have one more who's kind of like a super dark horse, but I want you to answer first, so I don't just name the whole roster and then say take it away.
Okay, sounds good. So I mean, like, there's the obvious ones, like you already mentioned. Simon Edvinsson, right? Like Simon Edvinsson is such a clear-cut, like obvious choice to pick here. And so I'm not going to choose him because it's too easy. Albert Johansson, another one that would be any of the young guys, right? Jonathan Berggren, all those guys. But I'm going to go with, for the Red Wings, Erik Gustafsson.
Nice.
I'm going to say Erik Gustafsson because one element that has been reported about with this team since he signed was the reunion of Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane together and that instant chemistry they have had in practice. And so if at some point this season we see a power play, and it looks like Erik Gustafsson is poised to probably play power play unit 1 with this team, if he's playing power play unit 1 and he's out there with Alex DeBrincat or Patrick Kane or both, we're going to see an inflation of point totals like we saw from Gostisbehere this last year. I mean, he has a career high of 60 points that came with the Blackhawks in 18-19. I know last year he had 31 points, and he had 42 the season before that between the Capitals and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, so this is a guy who he's going to get a lot of points. And I think that it's going to surprise Red Wings fans when he scores more than 31 total points this year. That's the one I look toward and go, I can see potentially because he's gonna get similar. He's gonna get the same kind of deployments Gostisbehere got. Like maybe a little bit more in the defensive zone, maybe, but we saw it in the preseason. He and Mata were already getting like sheltered deployments. That's the role I expect him to play. Sheltered D-man role, offensive zone deployments, power play deployments with the most scoring players on the team. I think that he's absolutely a breakout candidate for the Red Wings. But again, like all those other players, there's so many. Like you'd even see Moritz Seider, right? He's had a couple years of 41 points. His offense could take a step forward this year. You don't know.
I have a hard time calling a $8.5 million man a breakout candidate, but I do share your sentiment for sure. I think the only other guy I wanted to give a shout out, and this is more of like boom or bust than breakout, is Berger. Like I think that's a dude that we could be talking about at the All-Star break, and we're like, oh my goodness, like he figured it out. He's producing a ton of points. He's a fantastic scoring option. He's not a liability defensively. The extra time to kind of marinate in GR was so good for him. Or we could be talking about by like Christmas and being like, oh my goodness, like is he even going to stay on the roster through the All-Star break? Like I genuinely think that both of those scenarios are kind of on the table for a guy like him. And so that's a little bit more boom and bust than just straight up breakout candidate. But I think that he's someone that I'm really interested, kind of like where we were at with Veleno a year ago, even though I don't think Veleno's floor is nearly as low as Berger's. But I think Berger maybe has a higher ceiling. So I don't know. I'm kind of just rambling at this point, but I think that he's a guy that to keep an eye out for there as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, it depends on your definition of breakout, right? Like, how you view breakout. We went some with fun ones, but obviously I think the most, and we've said it, the most obvious breakout candidate would be Simon Edvinsson coming in as a second-pair defenseman, as a not rookie, in air quotes, because he's not up for the Calder because he's played too many games. Cumulative, but he's the obvious answer. Albert Johansson, too. Maybe he can cement himself as an everyday player. So it wouldn't be like a crazy breakout, but it'd be like more than we expected.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of fun options on the team this year. But the final question here is, Scotty, and I don't want to ask, will they make the playoffs? Because, dude, I don't know. Like, I cannot give you an answer to the question, do they make the playoffs? So I'm going to ask you this. Are they a playoff team? There's nuance there.
I think that this team has the potential to be a playoff team. I'm trying to choose my words very carefully, and I don't say that to walk a fence or not go all in or all out on an opinion there, but it's just it's very difficult. It's very difficult because this team had the amount of points required to make the postseason last year and did not make it. And it almost feels like their identity is changing. Like they finished with a point total with over 90 for the first time in almost a decade or whatever. And they changed the personnel to fit more towards a different style of play than the one that got them. What do we have with 91 points last year? I think there is enough talent on this. I think this is a playoff caliber roster. Do I know if they make the postseason or not? Like you said, I'm with you. I have zero clue, man. This is an impossibly difficult division, a really good conference. And there are a lot of variables at play, and they're going to need some guys that haven't played full seasons to play full seasons to get over that hump. They're going to not need to completely just crap themselves at the trade deadline for the third year in a row. There's a lot of stuff that they are going to need to do. But I think when comparing and contrasting this roster to other wild card caliber rosters, this is a playoff roster. It's just a matter of whether all of the new things that were added to the team this summer and the new style that they're trying to implement of being more defensive-minded was the correct direction to head or not.
100% agree, which is exactly why I phrased the question the way I did, because if you were to ask me, will this team make the playoffs, it would be a big shrug. It'd be a big, I don't know. Because, like you said, in my eyes, this is a playoff roster. On paper, this team is good enough to make the playoffs. But the mitigating factor in that regard, as we've said for the last 5 years, maybe not on this podcast, but probably as fans, before we were on here, is I hate this division. Like, it is nutty. There are 6 teams in this division that I could sit there and make an argument for making the playoffs this year. Like, obviously, it goes without saying. You have your Torontos, you have your Floridas.
7. Yeah.
7, yeah. I mean, it's just, with the exception of Montreal,
Right.
I think 7 teams you could make an argument for making the playoffs this year from this division alone. And that's
they're
scary.
not even terrible. Montreal is not like a bottom feeder in the NHL. Like
they had a couple of big blows though, losing Line and Reinbacher to start the season. But
For sure.
I mean, then you throw in a couple of wild card contenders in the Metro, right? The Capitals, who beat you out last season off some stellar goaltending, got better. They got Matt Roy, they got Chychrun. That defense is without a doubt better because of that. I mean, it remains to be seen with Pierre-Luc Dubois, but I think he's probably still an upgrade at what they had. I just don't know how much of an upside he really has.
When do you think he's going to demand a trade? What do you think the timetable is for that?
End of this season.
Okay.
Just to follow the trend, baby. New York Islanders, I don't know, man. I don't like the New York Islanders roster construction, but they're tight defensively almost every year. They're in the mix. The Devils are going to resurge.
Like the roster construction. You just don't like watching them.
No, snooze fest. Dude, they only made the playoffs because they lost in overtime. More than any team. They had less regulation wins than both the Capitals and the Red Wings, but got the third Metro spot to spot. Like, it's
Brian just randomly developing an utter hatred for the Islanders in the middle of last season is one of the funniest developments of the last calendar year.
I hate them more than I shouldn't say hate, but I strongly dislike them more than I strongly dislike the Washington Capitals, because at least the Capitals, they got the tiebreaker in the head-to-head. They had more regulation wins. The Islanders didn't have any of that. They made the playoffs for losing overtime games 20 times last season. Ridiculous. They had less than 40 wins. Like,
are you okay?
What is happening? No, I strongly dislike the way they play hockey.
Are you okay? No.
I'm not.
No, I'm not.
So I'm rooting against them this year. I really hope they don't make the playoffs. I want them to blow it up. Nothing against Gil. We love Locked On Islanders. Gil's a great guy, but
great show.
I dislike them more than I dislike the Capitals, even though the Capitals were technically the team that beat us on the tiebreaker. Because the Islanders shouldn't have been there. Anyway, Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. We'll have a game to preview. And at that point,
opening night, baby.
At that point, Scotty, we will be at golly gee, we are so back levels.
Thanks for making us your first listen every day, folks.
Same time,
even
same
though
place.
Brian says golly gee or whatever he just said.
Golly gee, we are so back every day.